Well, hello and good day to you.
Hey, hello.
My name's Liz.
Mine, I am Scandal.
And we're about to do a reaction review to Born To Be Posthumous, The Eccentric Life and Mysterious Genius of Edward Gorey by Mark Dery, as was performed by myself. Lies.
La 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 la.
So, this book was challenging to read simply because I didn't have all the cultural exposure I needed for some of the things that were referenced, and I felt very, what's the word? Plebeian.
I felt like a plebe.
I felt like a plebe. I'm saying,
you felt grossly uneducated, but also at the
I
same
did.
time, I feel like that's very. I feel that's very unfortunate. I feel like we shouldn't be encouraging each other to actually learn more, and I think in the way that's actually a thing that kind of bugged me about this author. So go burgeoning right into this debate about this book is actually the dig in into what was going on. For me, I felt very much like this book was kind of unfriendly. Okay. And going, if you didn't already know this stuff, and if you don't really understand this style or this function or whatever, well then, you will just never get the joke, and I'm just in on the in crowd. Not to say that, the eccentric and mysterious genius of Edward Gorey isn't fascinating, but still, there was something about the author that sort of
rubbed me kind of
the wrong way, let alone that there was another thing that really genuinely annoyed me, but
we'll get to that briefly. We'll get to that briefly. Okay, so in this book, I felt a bit uneducated. However, I felt like the author was sort of contradicting their focus of admiration.
Right.
Where they continually described Edward Gorey as liking things undefined, liking them empty spaces to leave openness for an emotional or an implicit experience rather than an explicit defined thing in a box.
Right.
Over and over, Edward Gorey really approached his life and his media as inspired by the sort of quiet between spaces that allows things, with Gene Wilder pauses, if you will.
Right.
And that's how a lot of his art was, that's how a lot of his writing was, his work was, that kind of thing, is it wasn't meant to be explicit, and he is quoted several times as talking about, like, he doesn't like things hammered down, and this author seems determined in the most, like, gushing enthusiasm of clear love for the subject matter to hammer everything down in labels.
Violently bubbling over, we're gonna put this in its place.
Additionally, just for writing's sake, like run-on sentences, like wow, like 9 commas for the different parsings of the sentence of it was this and this and this. And again, the enthusiasm for their subject matter comes through really hard.
Oh yeah.
It's just the actual, like, what they're talking about is, it got almost a little bit repetitive, even without getting through the prologue, because he kept gushing about the same kinds of things while he was giving a nonetheless fascinating history. And I got to find out pieces about Edward Gorey's life that I didn't know had cultural influences in places, even though I was familiar with those things. Like when he referenced Girl Anachronism by Amanda Palmer, I was like, excellent, great song. I didn't know that was from Gorey. One of the quotes was from Gorey's work.
I didn't know that either, for sure.
I was to say, but I'm glad he cataloged like his life. He wrote this biography of him. I think that's cool.
Right.
But one of my lighter disappointment was that he barrels in with this sort of like light-hearted quip of all of his life. Edward Gorey was described as, and he lists the things, like he was, historical and Edwardian and, this kind of thing, and dead, and then going, and now one of those things is true. And I didn't know whether that was the appropriate kind of irreverent humor to lead into, you're now the thing that everyone said you are.
But it's only
dead.
one of them.
Yeah, only one of those things.
Right. And that's the dead one, which is awesome.
I was going to say, if you haven't heard the preview, it would be
advisable probably to go
and listen to it, and or at least go, or if you want to go to like Overdrive and check out the book. But the other thing that both of us found offensive about this book, and
this is actually like more so the rest of it of going, like, some of it I think you could just read as being charming, and that's kind of the style. This particular detail, I think, for me, was blatantly more offensive. Like, actually truly inappropriate.
So I'm just going to do a quick lead in, and then I'm going to let Scandal exposit a little bit here. So, both of us have known Edward Gorey's work and his stuff for a while. The reason I picked up this book and wanted to read it was because I am a fan of Edward Gorey, even if I didn't know the great range of his influence. But one of the things we both also know him as is an asexual icon, an example of a successful asexual who got through their life and did well. So as, basically a queer representative of an underrepresented group.
Right.
And the author
goes, well, we know he said all of that interesting detail, and he always claimed this, but due to the way that he acted in a stereotypical fashion, I want to say it with air quotes, of that he wore rings, he had long eccentric coats, and he flapped his arms vigorously, and he did all these things that for most people seems like, especially in this person's impression, is going that just means that you have gay behavior, meant that he was gay, as if gay also is exclusive from being asexual, but also was not, it just was like, it wasn't, well, I don't know, like, it was, well, he's not asexual, he's clearly gay. That's just all it came down to, is going like, clearly going, yep, he said this over and over, but we know as the in crowd of being able to determine all these details, and the way even him being like, it was this like, thankfully, like even though Gorey describing himself of going, I am undersexed and uninterested, and in a like it's a fortuitous position to be in. And they're going, and only he knows why. And the thing was, is it really does boil down. He's asexual. Why do you not believe the author? Like, I don't care if somebody acts extremely what you consider to be masculine or extremely femme or whatever your gender non-conforming stuff as is. If the person says that, why not respect them? That seems super rude. Like, and granted, we didn't read all the rest of this, so I don't know if it goes on of going, we explicitly actually found him talking in personal private journals of going, actually, I'm gay, I just say this thing because this makes me more comfortable, and I know what especially in considering the environment that Edward Gorey probably grew up in, that would make sense. There have been cases of Hollywood actors over the years. So once they performed the Hays Code, which was a code about morality for movies, they actually hid their lives. Yes. Which many people who identified as either bisexual or just queer coded in some way hid extreme details about themselves. And I'm wondering whether or not it's possible them going, oh, I have other information. But the way this author talked about it was really like, he said explicitly, as far as anybody knows, that he was asexual. It was actually even... And the author's going, no, Gorey was clearly... gay. Clearly a fop. He was clearly gay. I mean, and the thing was, is it's really that straightforward. They say Gorey is quoted as saying he's asexual. When pressed about his sexuality, which he didn't like to discuss, he would claim asexuality and say that basically he was, again, undersexed, that it was a fortunate state. And they say, well, why he thought it was fortunate, only he knew, the author says. And then after that, they immediately go, but everyone could tell he was gay. And all of his friends, apparently, or the people who at least met him or knew him, air quotes, could tell. Would always, but we could always tell. We just knew what he really was. They don't quote anyone else. They don't bring in any other such information. They just say that we know this. And so it's not necessary that he be asexual. It's not necessary that he be any kind of sexual at all. But it was very strange that one of the primary things I'd heard about him, other than being an amazing storyteller, a great artist, a really concise writer of and master of his subject matter, was that while he was eccentric and educated, but not overly pretentious in his basically approach of things, that he wasn't asexual, and that he actually lived alone and stayed essentially, kept a lot of his his romantic life to himself. Like, he seemed largely aromantic asexual. Right, and that's totally fine. Now, that's not to say that he couldn't have also been other things on top of that, because asexuals are a diverse lot, believe it or not. But I'm like, if he himself claims his own sexuality, why not let him have it? And again, maybe in the rest of the book it covers this. And if somebody's read the rest of the book and they have read what it covers, that'd be super interesting to hear about. But it just felt very uncomfortable at the time. This felt more like a weird semi-novelization of a biography of someone. In the intro. Yeah. I mean, again, this is for the little bit that we've read, so it seems odd. And again, I was just like, I was entertained by some of the stuff, and again, a lot of the rambling was sort of a little bit off-putting at times. It seemed a little bit much, but that seriously felt very strange. It feels also like a massive disrespect to to this person, to Edward Gorey, an American, children's author, book author, illustrator, and just going, oh, honey, you just don't know. Or you're just hiding it. You're using a different label because you're hiding it. Okay, Gorge. Okay, honey. Yep, darling, please. We all, oh, honey, you can be clear with us. And you just like, you don't do the bunny quotes, asexual. Oh, of course, you're asexual. Right?
I love
don't know.
that. All right. Anyway, so that was my impression going in. Like the author seemed incredibly excited about their subject matter. They seemed really like a huge mega fan of Edward Gorey.
Very enthusiastic.
But they also seem to have a whole lot of very strong opinions about him as well. And again, their actual discussion of him seemed to contradict what they said who he was, what their opinion of who him was.
Okay.
Well, and that was interesting.
So it's. Well, I think it would be a fun book for people to pick up. I don't know what this will be like. I've been debating on vaguely going and reading the whole thing myself.
Yep.
Just to see what it's actually like, because I don't actually know too much about Edward Gorey. That was actually one of the big reasons we picked it up, is because we both went, for the little bit that we know about him, he's really charming. Like, we grew up basically with Edward Gorey. Then I grew up with Edward Gorey very little, considering my background, but you know.
But anyway, so yeah, if you have comments or thoughts or ideas about the book, we'd love to hear them.
Yeah.
Additionally, if you want to check out the preview, if you hadn't, or if you have thoughts about that, that'd be lovely to hear. In the meantime, my name is Liz.
And I am Scandal.
And thanks so much for joining us. Goodbye.
Bye.